force that's under the umbrella of the Early Childhood Coalition. So with that, with this task force, we strategically coordinate home visiting services and connect families with the services that best fit their needs. The task force will meet these goals through collectively educating and recruiting parents and guardians in our community and coordinating mindful transitions with families as their needs change. And I want to couch us in this as we go forward and look at our work plan that we'll carry for the next 4 years now. This is a 19 to 24 work plan. And this work plan, our work in here, feeds to the Early Childhood Coalition's leadership team work plan, which ties to, in theory, the CHIP, Community Health Improvement Plan. And all this is like, that's kind of cool alignment, right? That's kind of mind-blowing, actually, and we're there. So what I want us to do, we were in a conversation. Right now, the Early Childhood Coalition is writing a grant request to secure the funding from Headwaters. And with that, we really are looking at things and laser focus in to create change, right? So one of the things that came up in that conversation was something was mentioned about mission drift. And I was unfamiliar with that term. So I looked it up, and what mission drift is doing things that they're not necessarily not for the common good. They're great, but they're not laser focused in what we have been scribed, what our mission is. And what our mission is that purpose I just read. So as we go through the strategic plan and then look at what we've done, what we're about to do, and what we want to do is as how we want the agenda to go. We're creating our action plan. And then we're going to put that into the calendar as well to match it. And then we can present to the ECC leadership team on this. But I want us to think about especially our peer-to-peer work in how does that as a tool fall into these goals we're going to read. Because we risk, in a sense, I think, having a little bit of mission drift if we don't look at how we're going to use this peer-to-peer model to, and I'm going to read it one more time, strategically coordinate home visiting services and connect families with the services that best fit their needs. And we meet these goals through collectively educating, recruiting parents and guardians in the community and coordinating mindful transitions with families as their needs change. So with that, I'm going to shut up. And I don't know, Megan, you led us through quite beautifully a review of what we were looking at before. And I don't know, you have the bird's eye view in your look. So I don't know, what do you think about leading us through the next part of this, so that Trista can be a participant as well instead of the facilitator of this piece of the conversation? I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. I'm sorry.
She does that sometimes, Megan.
It's okay.
For that.
I want to make sure I understand the request, and it's to take a look at the work plan and the objectives that we have set out, with a sense to what we have been working on in this past year, which is the peer-to-peer plan, and also the work that can be achieved in 2021. Is that correct?
Right, as it like literally bullets under, like I'm looking at the strategic plan on another computer, or our work plan, I'm sorry, and what I literally want to do, and I think Haley has it up on her screen, or maybe not, but when taking notes, to actually bullet under each one what we've done, what we're doing, and what we intend to do, and have it embedded inside that actual document. So as we go through, like goal 1, sustain and improve home visiting task force operations and expand membership, and then to look at those goals under that, and then also decide if we need to get another strategy in or abandon a strategy that's no longer working.
Perfect. Well, I did some homework. which very effectively prepares me for this conversation. So I'm going to share my screen. I have this awesome spreadsheet that Elaine created for us back in the day that allows you to kind of do that exercise of what did we say we were going to do? How are we doing against it? Are we working towards it? All sorts of things. So can everybody see my screen all right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is our work plan, and essentially the way it's broken out is it has our goals and objectives and strategies kind of in each row. And then the way that it was intended to be used is if we have done any action towards one of these strategies within the last year, it's green. I kind of adapted that because I like color coding even further, and I did some yellow as well. But then started taking notes of like, what have we done? What could we do? Things like that. So I think this could be a really good way to work through it. And we can just use this column K for notes about like, have we done something that maybe I was missing, or are there ideas that we want to bring up? So I'll just start going row by row. So the first goal is to sustain and improve our operations and expand membership. Nice and basic. I'm also making sure nobody shows up as we go. Okay. And so making sure we have sufficient resources, which means exploring funding options and assist in applying requesting, and then exploring staffing options and assist in applying requesting. So funding options, we had the mini grants at the beginning of 2020 that gave us the library. And then staffing options, we have me, which is new. Hey. Established processes for meetings, communications, and other functions. So we adopted template forms for agendas, minutes, quarterly reports, decision-making. That's done. In addition to quarterly report, provide oral report at gen meetings and provide input to the leadership team's review of strategic plan. That's what we're working on right now, and have been really good at giving updates at general meetings. Work with the leadership team to establish means of maintaining documents. We have our website and free camp for that purpose, so that's done. So then strategy 4 is the first one that doesn't really have it marked as complete. Pilot a new or streamlined meeting process so that 2-hour work sessions occur quarterly, and each meeting has a defined purpose and proposed outcomes.
Trista and I talked about this yesterday, and we have an idea that we would like to share once we get further, is that we use this, we definitely can use this as updates and who has what openings, but really that can be done on FreedCamp or emails, like the platforms we have, and to really get used to doing those. We could use this hour meeting, have 2 different work groups, is what Trista and I were talking about. And one is, Trista, I need you to say this part. Thank you.
Absolutely. So the conversation came from, we really have 2 projects we're working on right now, the peer-to-peer support group. And then if you guys remember when we did our calendar last month, we talked about the crosswalk, right? Brent and the Department of Family Services was really wanting to see kind of a tangible piece. So those are kind of 2 big projects that this group has brought forward. So the idea is that we'll come together, we can give updates, and then what happens is we're going to break into those 2 work groups. So by the end of today, you'll need to attach yourself to one of those efforts, and then we'll break out into 2 groups for about probably 25 to 30 minutes when we meet together to kind of keep moving forward on those 2 projects. I think all of us are zoomed out. We're all wearing many hats. If groups want to meet outside of that, by all means, but for those of us that are stacked back to back and don't have a ton of extra time, it at least allows us to have that work time together that's not extra. It's built into our time.
Does everybody know what the crosswalk is when she speaks of that?
Oh,
Oh, hi, Lizzie. I didn't see you come on. So when I say the word crosswalk, there was this excitement around, in essence, of the goal of connecting families to the appropriate services, okay? Around this idea of having a column that might have an identified need, let's take domestic violence. So any practitioner in our community could have this resource. And if they come across a family that's experienced domestic violence, in column 2 is going to be the best practices, treatment or support of that need. And then to take further, what we would like is to have Lewis and Clark, at least to begin with, almost like a directory. So if we know, like, let's take trauma, a child under the age of 8 experiences a trauma, we know TFCBT is a treatment for that or support. So then in that resource, we'll have everyone in Lewis and Clark County that's certified in TFCBT. Wow. Now, that's our hope, right? And so then this becomes a community document that, I mean, I hope lawyers will have it at some point. I hope judges will see it as a resource at some point. Absolutely, Julie. So Connect is going to be, sorry, Charity. Yes, Charity. Connect is going to be a huge part of this because we're going to look to Julie in the Connect system to see who's already got credentials in some of those parts. And then my hope is connected to that crosswalk will be kind of like, and if you're in Connect, right, like here are those parts. So it's all going to come together and really support all of the efforts that we've been doing over the last few years.
And what's really cool too, to give everybody that community-wide perspective and also our ECC perspective, is on the maternal mental health work group. They are working specifically on a vetted referral list for families that are in the perinatal period, specifically experiencing a perinatal mood disorder. Our Jennifer, oh my God, Filipovich is on our group here. She's another family advocate that she's just on an IEP right now, but she is our crossover to the maternal mental health work group. So that piece, they're going to work on that piece. They've got it going, but we can pick up this piece. And then the other coolest thing is Julie has a Connect advisory team working and going to recruit therapists onto the Connect system. So there are multiple things happening all at once, and we are aligning directly into it. So we are meeting that goal like on a level that this is also going to create true systemic change, which is crucial to show if we want to capture $200,000 a year from the headwaters. The systemic change piece is important. And so this is a part of that systemic change, which I do believe is goal 3. With that, I will be quiet again.
Well, and to just build off that, as my individual role, as I'm taking a personal lens to this as a clinician, what I'm excited for around this list and working with Julie and Connect around this is we're not only vetting for perinatal mood disorder practitioners, but we can vet for all of those best practices. We will have a list of which clinicians are trained and certified in what practices, what home visitors have completed safe care and are able to provide that service to fidelity, right? So that's really the hope and the dream there. And Julie, you've already done some work around that. So we don't have to like start from scratch, but my hope is then this crosswalk will lie in Connect, but not everyone is there, right? So like that information will be in there, and those that aren't connected to Connect will be able to have a paper kind of resource as well. This is a really long answer to a very simple question.
Thank you. It really helped.
You bet.
Awesome. So exciting. Okay. I'll make that yellow then because we're making progress towards that. So then maintaining and expanding membership and promoting collaborations. Strategy 1 was to designate members willing to be listed as contacts on materials and field questions. Wasn't sure if that had happened.
No, this has not happened, Megan. And I think, so all of us are in this relational work. I think that like if I was in control of the world, I would be assigning all of us different organizations that are not at our table and like calling them up, right? Calling them up, having a phone conversation, asking them to join the table. We're missing some crucial players here. We have no one from Chaudère. We have no one from Intermountain. We have no one from YDI, right? We know Youth Homes is out there providing home services, and that's just a few. And so we're missing some crucial members in the communities across that need to be at the table. How are we recruiting? And I think some of the barrier has been because we don't have the language on what we're doing. So this is helping us reorganize our purpose so that then we can do better at recruiting at the table.
Some of this work we're trying to do with the leadership team as well as taking a look at the organizations that could be members and understanding the information we have about them in order to tailor how we reach out. One idea that I came out with yesterday from a webinar is having like an open house for the ECC and having like breakout areas where people can come and attend and we can talk about the ECC. And this is on Zoom, unfortunately, but then breaking people out. So if they want to learn more about the home visiting task force, having people there to answer questions, and they want to learn about the maternal mental health, having people there. So hopefully I'll pull together some more ideas related to that, but it could be something that serves everyone because I think the entire organization is struggling on that membership idea.
Julie, is this something, could the ECC and its task force be a part of a lunch and learn for Connect?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I'd be happy to send out the info about that open house whenever that is to the Connect folks.
And maybe we could bring this then to leadership team to see what month would work to be in that. And then also maybe think about that as a general meeting idea or as well then.
Mm-hmm. It's a great idea.
As we're looking at the calendar, Megan, I'm just going to put out, I think with some of the information we've had about vaccine recently, I think it would be, it might be optimistic, but I would like to do a virtual open house sooner than later, but I would like us to plan for something in person once we're able to do that. And I think that it's safe to say about summertime or end of summer, we might be looking at being able to do that. That might be me holding on to hope. But
I heard a doctor on Yellowstone Public Radio's Morning Edition say that we would be back to normal by the fall, and it was a doctor.
So it must be true.
Yeah.
So just holding hope in our action plan and thinking of our calendar, like hosting something or an event, as I know that's been part of our calendar strategies as well.
It's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. The next one, developing and distributing a fact sheet that may include community resources. That almost sounds like a part of the crosswalk. So I'm going to mark it in yellow. Inviting stakeholders to attend home visiting task force meetings. We've had some good guests this year. I think this goes back to what you were saying, Trissa, is including continuing to invite more people, but it'll be marked green for now. Document input from guests and new members for future consideration and outreach and overall activities. We had some good participation from like Amplify Montana, Montana Legal Aid, and so I think that was good for this year, and hopefully we can continue to do more in 2021. Promoting at conferences by distributing materials, wearing t-shirts, and otherwise displaying a home visiting presence. On hold until after COVID, but are there any, do you guys have any conferences that you're specifically thinking to when developing this strategic plan so that we can start to keep an eye on how those conferences are planning for 2021?
Yeah, I think
probably that can one, huh?
Oh, Cannes conference for sure.
Like the film festival?
No, so the Cannes conference is, Brent, you can help me with the terms here, but it's a conference for child and protective services. And so they kind of bring those and then related services around and can attend that conference every year. Is it in August? I can't remember, but it's a big conference in the state of Montana.
Yeah, it's a Child Abuse Network conference, and it's, yeah, I thought it was in April.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, it's an awesome conference if you can go in person. Yeah, it's a great place to be. You learn a lot of good stuff. So anyway.
Before we can do this though, we have to it doesn't even matter about the conference because I need my t-shirt and we don't have any materials. So
we do actually have materials.
Some work to do. Oh, cool.
We have so many brochures and
we do like, about us?
About the ECC in general.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Yep.
But yeah, no t-shirts.
I still need my t-shirt.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's see. Engage in messaging, promote events that increase knowledge of home visiting. So engaging with community partners to enhance awareness and understanding. This first one, work with leadership team and others to develop messaging campaign regarding what home visiting is and isn't, whether it's video or news articles.
So I think just to kind of reiterate, you guys, this can be a group discussion. So things that you think we've already done or things you think we need to be doing around these strategies. So this could be a creative conversation as well. I know something that's lacking in our community is other practitioners knowing what services are out there. I had a lawyer tell me the other day, like, I didn't even know we had home visiting in our community. And I was like, and shoot me now, because we've been working so hard on these processes, right? And so we can do a better job. It's really getting creative on how we're getting the messaging out there. So any ideas, any thoughts you guys have? What do you think some of the barriers are? What can we do to kind of work towards these strategies?
You know, Trista, I am just laughing at what you said about the lawyer not knowing, because when you're in this field, it sometimes feels like, how can people not know what we're doing? It's my world. How can you not know it? And I just, it's such a good reminder to me that other people just they don't see it. And I don't even know where to start. But I guess just realizing people don't know it is where we start.
Yeah, absolutely, Lizzie. And then I think about what are the gateways? What are the entry points, right? And so entry points that I've been able to see is, we know that like the Department of Family Services is an entry point. We also know that the pediatrician's office is an entry point. We know that schools are an entry point. We also know that like our lawyers and judges and defense attorneys are entry points. And so when I've thought about, I used to use the word infiltrate. How can I infiltrate the community with some of what needs to be done? Like, I have to think about it in a layered approach, because once that starts, I think it'll start spreading a little bit more, because those have so much crossover. So it's just something I've been thinking of, but how do I go and sit in a meeting with judges to explain and to see them see the value, right? And be open to that. Or the same with defense attorneys. How do I explain the value and connect their emotion and their work to what we're doing? And that's a little bit more tricky.
I think I just had a crazy idea with our crosswalk. I was thinking, first off, and if somebody is it one, we can look at, if we look at the ACE score, we can look at need related to what ACE, because when you said pediatric offices, that really, or you said doctor's offices. So then we can, when we do that crosswalk, then identify who addresses to build the resilience to meet that need, right? And that in and of itself, this tool, this crosswalk tool, in my opinion, is getting a lot of our objectives met, including getting the word out there as to what it is we do. Because then on the end of the column, like, this is going to be a slow build, right? But the completed picture of it, as I see, is the end is a outcomes column. That when you actually refer and a family graduates safe care, these are the outcomes that we've been able to measure, which is something else that we want in terms of success and quality of life for the family. So this crosswalk could be all of it together eventually.
Got it.
My thought too is just the funding that is needed behind some of these things, because to distribute that crosswalk, if it's not in Connect, how do we pay for that? I've always thought it would be super cool if the Department of Public Health would do a big billboard in every single county for home visiting. I've asked for it several times and I get told there's no budget for any marketing. And as we keep going, the budget gets a little bit smaller and smaller. And so
these are all projects that we could honestly could get funded through Headwaters, even if we didn't get the $200,000 grant. And this is all systemic change stuff. So this crosswalk stuff could be 100%, in my opinion, and probably would be funded, and including those billboards by them.
That would be awesome.
That, and if you just operate from the philosophy that it's never no, it's just not right now. If we create it, they will fund it.
Yeah.
We will find someone. And it doesn't cost anything to send an email, Charity. If we have a document we can send as an attachment, eventually someone will want to print that and have it be mass produced.
Yeah.
That's a really great idea, Tim. Did you
Mhm.
read that, Trista?
Yeah.
Everybody can see the chat box, right? Nobody's on this via phone, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, good.
Okay, next, promote use of common language by using consistent language and materials. This was already marked as done by Elaine, so awesome. Promoting systemic change that improves availability, accessibility, and capacity of home visiting programs and services. This includes education on policies and funding that support high quality services.
Can we go back just real quick to promoting the common language, just to add into there? One of the things that we're about to do, and this is an even bigger common language thing, is promote the circle of security as common language in dealing with and supporting with families, starting with the Department of Family Services is going to get trained here. All of the DFSers are going to get this. And then like I'm on, all the family advocates are going to get it. And that eventually, like, wouldn't it be cool if all the judges got it and all of the, you know, and Kelly McBride is a huge piece of this. So it's already going into the justice system through her as an incredible champion. And so circle of security classes and getting everybody through it is a huge thing right now that Trista has really championed, and it's moving forward beautifully.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Great note. Let's see, first strategy, collect data from task force members and other organizations about effectiveness of home visiting, gaps in services, cost savings compared to other interventions, and distill information into educational and outreach materials.
That feels like wordy and jargony to me. I don't know about you guys, but like, I know what collect data means, but I don't know if I know what the rest of it means.
When I read this, this is like the final column that I visualized in our crosswalk.
Yeah, I was similar thinking, Jamie, as in like, and I know where this came from, and it came from like, it's got a little bit of Drenda's like sprinkle in it, and I feel even a little bit of Brie Oliver in here around like, we need to collect data, any type of data to show and to sustain, especially when we're looking at funding. But the question came down to, what kind of data are we collecting? What's meaningful data that's going to help guide our work? And I think that's a question that continues to be somewhat unclear. I like Jamie's idea of outcomes, right? How many families completed safe care in the last 6 months? How many families dropped out? How many but yet that's a simple service. It would be harder as we like expand some of those home visiting services to collect data similar. But we also know Connect is collecting a lot of data. How many families were referred through Connect? How many families got connected to a referral in Connect? That's data that's already existing that we could start pulling. The question is how do we use it?
Is there guidance from, for PAT and Safe Care and NFP, is there guidance from the standards about what data should be collected? Because I know those programs all have information about outcomes.
Julie, HRSA has tons of outcomes that we're collecting, and so there's no problem with collecting that. You know, on tobacco, you know, breastfeeding, all kinds of stuff, reading to your child, holding insurance, the child's insurance, ER visits, ASQs, we've got it all. I think we have 18 about, and that's a McVie thing that I can easily get a hold of.
Like, I know even Early Head Start and Head Start comes out with a program informational. I mean, we have data that we could just upload in terms of what home visiting does inside of our own programs. With that collection and going through the Connect too, maybe we just start at looking at what do we have to offer. So we have program information reports from a Head Start and an Early Head Start. We have Connect referral reports from our Connect. We have the stuff that Charity was talking about with the home visiting. we have some stuff we could just throw out on a table and see what it looks like and play with it a little.
Good idea. Let's see, next strategy, promote trainings and other means to ensure that members understand how to find information about relevant laws and rules, like bill tracking and rulemaking. We did something that was more targeted to like legislative outreach. So I was curious what you guys thought would be useful here for this strategy.
I'm gonna have to lean to the group. I feel like this is a weak point in my knowledge base.
Mm-hmm. Does it need a whole training? Does it need just email updates? What kind of information would be valuable here?
I think there's almost two things. One is just kind of how the process works. Like, how do you follow legislation through the session? And the other thing is, how do you even know which bills are going to affect our agency or our group? And what are the ramifications if they're passed or not passed? And typically our agencies have had lobbyists to do that. I was wondering if there's any agencies that have a lobbyist already that maybe we could
We
connect
use
with.
MAC, Lizzie. We do have it, and we use MAC, Montana Advocates for Children. And on MAC is Head Start. Who all represents on that is our lobbyist. So we do have a lobbyist group
Okay.
that works with us.
And I feel like Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, I don't know if fall into that category, but they're going to be there at the legislative table and really have a voice. And of course,
They're in MAC too.
Okay.
MAC has, I was trying to think, it's Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, it's Head Start or the Montana Head Start Association. And there's another, I can't remember who else is represented with that particular group.
Mm-hmm.
I just looked up Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies. Sarah Corbally is their Director of Government Relations and Advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
So she might be a person they might just have an email list that you can get on for updates, or she might be able to offer training or something like that.
Yeah,
She'd be great.
Yeah, she's like a consultant with them. I think they do want to do work through MAC. And so I have their info. I can send an email to say like, hey, this is kind of what we're looking for. Which direction can we take? And maybe bring that to a future meeting of like, how do we start to understand this information?
Yeah, that sounds good, Megan. And just pointing out too, it's in conjunction with LT. So LT needs to be working on this as well and probably provide direction for Home Visiting Task Force as we go through these next few strategies.
Mm-hmm. Was this plan also created before we took away the policy task force?
I think it was after,
Okay.
because the policy task force would have taken care of a lot of these pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But we recognize the importance is, Jamie and I, was this 2 years ago, Jamie, that we wrote a letter in regards to some kind of shifts that were happening at the legislative level that would impact home visiting and some of those pieces. And so if we are going to be advocating and writing letters and putting our names on things, we need to be educated.
Yeah.
So that's where that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And that next strategy goes right with the other one. So communication about changes to services and relevant laws and rules through presentation or other means. So I can take on some of that follow-up. The next objective, empower families and community members to build skills and advocate for themselves in the context of home visiting and otherwise. So the first one is develop and execute a plan to gather input and guidance from at least one family who has participated in home visiting in relation to possible family engagement strategies. The really interesting thing about this strategy is you see the same one on each task force's work plan. Just finding somebody who has participated in whatever that task force has related to family engagement. So I think there is some sort of opportunity here to combine efforts with the other task forces, right? Just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's one thing that this task force and maybe others, I haven't sat on them, but one thing we're lacking is parent voice. We are lacking parent engagement, family engagement. We don't have a parent sitting on our table. We would highly benefit from that. And
We
so
had one for a hot second and we need more than one for sure.
I
yeah,
think we need to have a way of doing that, you know, not just to be able to use some of that language that clearly explains, just like recruiting other agencies to join, to kind of have the language around, okay, what are we really doing? Where have we made a difference? I think we need to use some of that same language with a family too, because I know, you know, Haley's sitting right here. She could probably think of someone that might be a good person, but being able to maybe even have incentives. Right now we can't because we're doing everything virtually, but you know, a gas card to get to somewhere, or childcare or things like that. Cause that's what I know families are gonna think about, is getting there. How are you gonna help me with the kids and things like that? So I think we need to have more details about that.
Yeah, that was a huge part of the discussion we had the other day about Headwaters is how do we start with families first, if we pursue a new direction for the collaborative. One idea that comes to mind too is a lot of people I think in this meeting got to attend the Amplify Montana graduation a couple weeks ago. And what's cool about Amplify Montana is they, outside of their speakers bureaus, they also help with like the facilitation of focus groups. And so it could be really interesting to kind of work with them to have a focus group of families that we identify through ECC that kind of talk about all of these different focus areas we have. So home visiting, maternal mental health, early care and education, and have like a focus group that way.
that's the
I
data.
love that. Will you put that down as a strategy, please?
Yes, ma'am.
I think Rachel would be super excited to even help us with that. After that graduation, we got to talk to her a little bit more. Abby here in Butte, and then we had a participant here in Butte that did it. And it was really cool of how this got started in New York and just how they've set up their focus groups. And it's very cool how they got those families to participate and get them on board.
Awesome. And if it's something that's ECC wide, there's maybe some funds we can tap into that the leadership team has. In conjunction with leadership team and other task forces, empower families to advocate for themselves about home visiting and related issues by promoting organizations, associations they can join, creating and distributing Know Your Rights or other informational material, and promoting other appropriate self-advocacy activities. When we're talking about the crosswalk, is that something that is also useful for families? Is it primarily for professionals?
My hope is it would be all friendly, right?
Mhm.
Because best practices is not just should not be just a practitioner's language. I think families should know what supports are out there and what the difference is between like someone who's trained and untrained. Like I think the hope is to educate families on getting their needs met.
Can I just say, you know, the only problem I have with that when talking about home visiting services is the eligibility requirements for different programs. And for example, like Safe Care might say the eligibility requirements are for high risk families. And I think that's not a very nice term. And
Yeah.
some families are going to be a little turned off by that. And in some cases, like when we're trying to figure out which program is best for a family, we might think, okay, Pat might have been the first choice, but there's some room in Safe Care right now, so let's start with that. But then I don't I have some papers that I would give to practitioners and programs out there, and I ask, please don't disseminate this to families, because it is written that way. It's written in a way that, yes, we have to kind of look at high risk as one of those factors, but I don't really want, I think we'd have to figure out a way to not have language like that on it if it's going to be for
That's what I think.
Wow.
We need to challenge all of our language, especially when it's going to practitioners. And challenge, remember, we were talking about that implicit bias inside and the systemic oppression or whatever we're dealing with. And it's in our line of work too. So we don't have high risk families. We have families that are living with many risk factors. I mean, poverty in and of itself is violence.
It's a really
Just
good
because
point.
we have families that are living in poverty, they're not poor families. They're families who have needs. And I think that all the way around, we challenge this people first language that came out of the world of disabilities. And there's really a great stuff if you want to Google people's first language. And all it is you take it. I mean, children are not autistic. There's a child, you know, it's a child who is on the spectrum or however that language is, you know. And so I really think that when we're looking at this and everything we put out, that we have a commitment across the board that we use people's first language that changes the narrative, that does not feed into the myths that people who are experiencing mental health crises, whether it be addiction or anything else, or a lack of resources in terms of money, and we change the narrative right there, and there's power in that.
Hey, James, I love that statement. I got to bounce. Are you cool if I head out? You guys got this? Okay. Sorry, guys. Thank you so much for your work. And I'll be so excited next month when we are able to meet and then kind of split up into 2 workbooks or work groups and start tackling some of these pieces, especially that crosswalk. Thanks, you guys. Have a great
Bye.
weekend.
Thanks, Trista. Have a good weekend.
One thought I had related to this real fast, I can't remember who brought it up. It might have been you, Jamie, but also not putting the expectation on families to serve themselves, but make sure that the system is there so that families don't have to do all that work themselves. I wonder with this strategy, if part of it is starting with something as simple as raising awareness about the safety and security that comes from asking for help, like normalizing the idea of asking for help. So if we have this crosswalk that all these practitioners can access that give them the answers, all we should really have to do with families is say there are people out there that you can ask for help, like, but it's not bad or embarrassing or anything to request help, right? And that could be just a really high level place to start.
Along with that, Megan, my thoughts are just like parenting itself is so hard. It's just stressful. And so if you're a parent, you qualify. You know, there's it's funny because not funny, but Haley and I talked about, she kind of mentioned, you know, the target population, if we want to say the target population, with a presentation she just did. And I kind of was like, just want to say, but remember, just being a parent itself with a kid from this age to this age, they pretty much qualify. And so, of course, we would like to have some of those more, as you know, we're kind of thinking about, do we use that word of risk, right? But just being a parent itself, it's so hard, and it's okay to not think you have to do it alone. And so a lot of times when I present, I just say, you know, you have a mom that has 3 kids under 5. Oh my gosh, that's super hard for anyone, no matter if you have all the finances in the world, you know, have a great education. That's just hard. We're all at risk as a parent to make a mistake. Just a thought.
Heck, we can just turn this meeting alone into a video about home visiting and why people should ask for help. We do some video editing, be prepared. Okay, let's see. Increase enrollment and retention in home visiting services. We might have to just kind of breeze through the rest of these. So maintaining and improving relationships with government agencies, organizations, and other interested persons. Wall chart was the strategy here, but we've kind of talked last time about how we've had a really good relationship with Brent and his team with a bunch of different things, even without the wall chart. So I'm gonna skip past that one. And the next 2 I have marked as green because Julie has been attending these meetings. We really talk about connect a lot and referrals. And so I think that we've done a really great job this year. So objective 4, reduce the stigma associated with home visiting. So consider and execute partnerships on anti-stigma campaigns. It's kind of what we just talked about, right? It's okay to ask for help. And it ties to some earlier things as well about raising the awareness. So I think there's really good opportunity there. I have found this really cool needs assessment from Gallatin County that was done in like 2013, but it has awesome strategies about stigma around home visiting. So I'll share that, Haley, with you if with the specific pages that are helpful, because it's like 50 pages. But it's really interesting to just read through. I mean, it's almost 7 years old at this point, but to read through some of these strategies, they're still really helpful. Develop and promote training materials addressing best practices for professionals. It's a crosswalk. And then the final objective, improve quality of home visiting in the greater Helena area. So develop and distribute local best practices for home visiting that are evidence-based and in light of effective professionals' practices. Track and monitor outcomes in relation to existing or new services and practices, and adjust local best practices and other information accordingly. Identify, develop, and promote professional development, training, and networking opportunities, and reach out to organizations that are undergoing challenges or presenting challenges to home visiting, and offer perspective, support, resources, and solutions. Any thoughts here? I thought this last objective really tied to some of the work with peer-to-peer. And maybe like where we're starting with peer-to-peer is really just increasing engagement. So finding ways to engage the home visitors to really like create a community of home visitors. But maybe once we have that community formed and those strong relationships formed, then we task that group with how can we hit some of these strategies, right?
I agree. I think it's really, yeah, I think these are great strategies for the peer-to-peer work group, whoever self-selects for that to be focused, razor focused.
Okay, that's everything. 5 minutes left.
That is outstanding. With all of that, that was a whole lot. Does anybody have stuff they want to just like overall thoughts of this that we want to add on to this template right now? I think this is really great. So could we all go back so I could see the Brady Bunch in front of me? Awesome. There y'all are. So I think now with this will be great. We did do some work on that calendar already. I think that we can just take a look at these notes, and then even if Megan, Haley, and Tristan, I kind of looked at that a little more, I think it's pretty well reflective in there. It's just a little bit of tweakage that needs to happen, and then the calendar will be done too. Do you think, does that work? So with that, think about what work group you want to self-select into. If you want to start working on the crosswalk, or if you want to focus in on peer-to-peer. And then just when we get our minutes back and stuff, we can, does everybody here know how to get into Freed Camp to look at our stuff and do things in Freed Camp?
I don't think
I don't.
everybody has access. I know.
Is that not a place to dialogue about stuff like this? I don't guess I understand what it is yet.
We haven't really effectively used any sort of like forums work where we really do stuff as tasks and files. I can dig into things that could be helpful because it's probably best to start with an idea of like, will this actually be useful before talking to everybody? But I'll take a look and see if there's some sort of collaboration that can be done within Freed Camp. Just because we haven't really used those tools yet. It's more of like a project management software. But
Well,
I can definitely take a look at it.
If you could all just email Haley back with it and let her know which group you want to be a part of, so that we know that before we do our January meeting. And that's about the only thoughts I have on that right now. Does anybody have anything for the greater good before we jet off of here?
I do a shout out to the CPS staff. They sent 14 referrals to Connect in November, and already they've sent 15 this month. So shout out to Brent and whatever, and the other supervisors for whatever you're doing is working. Thank you.
What a celebration. That is outstanding. Anybody else have anything cool?
We're trying. So we made more referrals. Yeah, Julie sent the email today. We're on pace to eclipse what we've done like the last 3 months previously this month, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, outdid how many we did on Connect. Way to go, Brent. Well, everybody, I really appreciate you. I don't know about the rest of you, but I think this is the end of a very long week, and I hope you all enjoy your weekends and have a relaxing time. The snow looks beautiful out there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jamie.
Bye.
Bye.